Welcome to another episode of The Fire Pit. I am so excited today to be joined by friend Mini Timmaraju, who is the CEO and president of Reproductive Freedom for All, an incredible organization that fights for all of our rights to have bodily autonomy and mobilizes about 4 million people nationwide. And so we're gathering around the fire pit today to discuss how we fight for reproductive freedom in the Trump era. So, Minnie, give us a little bit of background to Reproductive Freedom for All. You've been the CEO and president now. Oh my goodness, has it been 3 years?
My 4-year anniversary is coming up. I
Oh my
know.
God, it's been 4 years.
I know, because Danielle, fun fact, was one of my media trainers when I started this job
Oh my
4
God,
years ago. It's been 4 years.
4 years. That's
Almost.
incredible.
I know, it goes like that. It's like having a kid.
Yeah, right. And now they're in college.
Yeah.
So give us a little bit of background of your organization.
Yeah, so for folks who might be more familiar with our former incarnation, we are the organization formerly known as NARAL Pro-Choice America. We are 55 years old. We rebranded a couple of years ago, quite honestly, because we wanted to make sure we were reaching more Americans than ever before, given the crisis with jobs. And that, NARAL used to originally be the National Abortion Rights Action League, National Association of Repeal Abortion Laws. Like many brands of the 60s and 70s and acronyms didn't really resonate anymore. And we wanted to really shift the way we were talking about abortion rights. And we knew that as we did that, and to match the message with the org, but also we're organizing first. And what I mean is, like, our whole ethos is organizing, whether
Yeah.
it's digital, whether it's in person. You know, we're an advocacy and activist grassroots org. So you need a brand and a name that has the mission in
Mhm.
it. So when I'm knocking on a door, or I'm calling somebody to vote for Abigail Spanberger or Mikey Sherrill, which I'm doing right now, and I say I'm from Reproductive Freedom for All, nobody has to question, what is that? You
Right.
automatically
Right.
know in the name who we are. So we're 4 million members strong and growing. We're in all 50 states. We have chapters, like full-blown organizations, in 5. And we have a C3, a C4, a super PAC. We do political advocacy, voter education, research. But yeah, our number one thing is organizing year round in state capitals and in Washington for our reproductive rights and freedoms.
So you have an easy job, and I'm
It's so
sure
easy.
I'm sure that it's so easy and that you've been sleeping
But
so
here's what
well.
but here's what I will say. Here's what I will say. When I took this job almost 4 years ago, uh, I was like, "Oh, this is my dream job." I still wake up every day,
Mm,
even with all the chaos around us. And I'm in the DC suburbs and our
yep.
offices are in DC. And I still think I am so damn lucky that I get to go to work every day with and for our 4 million members, and I have the resources and I have the community to do something in this moment of crisis. Because I think the worst feeling in the world is to feel like you can't do anything. Like, and in
Yeah.
the first Trump administration, I was working in corporate America and I was like, really? My hands were tied. Like, there was a lot of stuff I wanted to say and I couldn't say it. And now I can be out there in these streets fighting openly and boldly and corralling all of our members to do the same. And that's the antidote to depression and anxiety in this moment.
And I love that you start there today, Minnie, because folks know from listening to me on my shows that I ebb and flow, and I'm very
I
honest
know,
about the ebb and
I know,
flow.
because I
Right?
watch you.
Exactly. Like if I'm experiencing grief, I'm gonna share that I'm experiencing grief.
That's why you're so good
Uh,
at what you do, though, because people want to feel it.
and I appreciate that. And I think that for me, particularly when it comes to reproductive freedom, you know, this is something that when it was overturned, when Roe v. Wade was overturned, I felt like with every election, we would say the Supreme Court is hanging in the balance. Roe v. Wade is hanging in the balance. And for whatever reason, this 50-year right that we had, Americans just thought, oh, it's never going to go away. just believing that because you've won a right once, that you don't have to remain vigilant for it.
Fight for it, right.
And you don't have to fight for it. It just is. And I wonder now, because you came on board when Biden was in office. And when Biden was in office is when the Supreme Court took away Roe v. Wade, right? And that was because of Donald Trump in his first term, with the help of Mitch McConnell, being able to stack the Supreme Court to
3
be this
seats.
MAGA-fied, 3 seats, MAGA-fied Supreme Court. And now here we are, where groups like yours, right, are being targeted just for the sheer mission of organizing. Donald Trump is trying to label organizations like Reproductive Freedom for All as like a terrorist group, as Antifa, right? And so what does it mean, Minnie, now to organize these 4 million people, these 4 million members that you have, given the fact that even the idea of organizing is considered now an anti-government action?
It's such a good question, and I just wanted to, like, go back to the beginning of what your points. I worked on Hillary Clinton's campaign in 2016, and we ran on this. We're like, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. And we were considered hysterical females, right? And I've worked in this movement for 20 plus years. We've known that the end of Roe has been coming since Planned Parenthood v. Casey in the 90s. I worked for Planned Parenthood in Texas, and we saw our rights literally in real time being whittled away in the 2000s. So I took this job actually when after the Supreme Court granted cert to the Dobbs case out of Mississippi. And I remember telling the committee when I was interviewing, we're going to lose Roe. That's actually why I want to take this job, because we've got to get ready. We've got to get ready. Like, what's happening? And the good news was the movement was doing so much, and I was so excited to jump in. But I knew I couldn't sit on the sidelines, and I couldn't be doing my corporate job. And I was actually in the Biden administration the first couple of months and just sitting in the admin when this was about to happen. It was very clear to you, to me, to all of our activists, this was happening. But we faced in this country a believability gap. People did
Yeah.
not believe this would happen, much like Americans do not believe we're going to lose the right to marriage equality. And so, flags. But to your point, your question, how are we doing this work under this threat that's looming over us by this admin? I mean, I think it's different when we come from a movement that for so long was told you're being hysterical.
Yeah.
Like, I knew this day would come.
Hmm.
I knew we were under threat, whether Donald Trump was saying it or not. I mean, the only difference between what's happening now and what happened in the first Trump administration is that they're just being bold about it.
Right.
I mean, take the destruction of the White House. They've been destroying they were gonna do that anyway. They're just being bold about it. They're just doing it in our faces because they've gotten so cocky because they have captured the courts. Let's be clear. The cockiness is not irrational, but they've just decided norms are gone. They don't
Hmm.
have to play games. In
Hmm.
some ways, I hate to say it's refreshing. That's not the right word. But in some ways, it's like, okay, make it plain. We've known all along this was your plan, to punish your enemies. Like, he was doing it already. Now he's just
Right.
being really out in the open. So, but as somebody who runs an org that has legal status issue, that has to be vigilant about protecting my donors, protecting my activists, protecting my staff, what it means is we're just spending resources on other things that we didn't used to have to spend them on, right? More legal counsel, more practices and protocols and standards of procedure for when we protest, how I protect my team when they protest, how we engage. We've amped up security. We've amped up, scrutiny of everything we do. We're stricter and we're tighter and we're more, we just got to be better than them. We've got to be 2
Hmm.
to 3 steps ahead of them. We gotta be tighter. We gotta be leaner. We gotta be meaner. But if anyone knows how to do that, it's the reproductive rights movement, because we've been living in that world now for 20 plus years while everyone else was like, "You're being hysterical."
Let me ask you this, because I think, again, it's really important, particularly when we're inundated every single day with news of destruction that Donald Trump is doing, right? And I agree with you. I've said before that I appreciate the brashness of this administration because we don't have to pretend that he isn't who he says he is,
That's
right?
right.
Which is what, in my opinion, mainstream corporate media has been doing for the last 10 years. They've been sane-washing Donald Trump and allowing us to believe that he's not an extremist, that he's not a white nationalist, that he's not a misogynist, that he's not a racist, and all of these things, right? And normalizing him to get to this place where, like, oh, you're tearing down the White House? That's completely okay. Meanwhile, Barack Obama couldn't wear a tan suit, right? And Michelle Obama couldn't say that she
I
was proud
mean,
of her country for the first time, right?
those are the days.
I mean, so how do you, i- as a leader of reproductive freedom for all, and the leader of this 4 million member group, how do you stave off hopelessness when every single day, Minnie, at least 2, 3, 5, 10, depending on what kind of tweet storm Donald Trump wants to put us through, um, is bad news after bad news after bad headline after bad headline? How do you stave off and continue to muster, right? th- the hopefulness, the integrity, and the passion to not just be like, you know what, forget it.
So there's some pragmatic things, and then there's some more sort of
Did
emotional,
we lose you?
spiritual. No, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Let's see, folks. Tell me in the. Oh, okay,
I'm here. Can you
you're
see
back.
me? Okay, sorry.
Yes, I can see you. Yeah.
My connection may be wonky. Apologies. I'm at
No,
home,
go ahead.
so there's a pragmatic thing I do that we do, and there's this more like emotional, spiritual thing. Like,
Yeah.
well, start with the pragmatic. Abortion, we're winning more than we're losing. We won 7 out of 10 ballot measures. When we put abortion on the ballot, abortion wins. Abortion's brand is better than the Democratic Party. Abortion is going to win Virginia and New Jersey right now. We are in it right now. Pennsylvania Supreme Court, it's going to be about abortion. Prop 15 California, it's going to be about abortion. Every focus group, every exit poll, voters care about this. That being said, it still doesn't feel like we're winning, right?
Yeah.
Because our
Yeah.
opposition continues to rig the game. I'll use Florida as a case in point. 57% of Floridians came out and voted for the ballot measure to put
Yep.
abortion in the Constitution. And it failed because they had changed the rules in Florida to make it 60%. But we have to keep reminding ourselves, but 57% of the folks in Florida, and that's a low number because that's just who showed up.
Mm-hmm.
Because we know there's voter suppression in Florida. 57% of people who showed up in Florida to the election said, I'm voting for all these Republicans, but I want protection for abortion rights in my state. So we're winning. And that gives me a lot of hope. And also the Trump administration, for all of their shenanigans, they know it too. And so this is one of the areas where they're not being as bold. They're not being as in your face about it. They're trying to muddy the waters with this bullshit about I'm the IVF president and I'm doing this and I'm doing that. I'm not really attacking medication abortion, but I'm quietly doing it. It is one of the few places where this administration is being quiet, which actually does make our job harder. And I'll put that over here. But what I believe is the American people, well, you got to be an optimist to do this work.
Yeah.
And I am
Yep.
I've had a colleague in the movement, and I take it as a badge of honor, and I know she didn't mean it as an insult, who called me a pathological optimist in 2024. She was like, "Minnie, you're like a pathological optimist." I'm like, "You know what? That's right. I'm gonna embrace that." But you do have to believe in the inherent good of the American people. And you have to celebrate the little things. You have to celebrate the wins. So every time we win a local race, every time we win a minor thing, every time we get somebody access to care, every time a partner of ours has like a small victory, every time we win one of these ballot measures, every down ballot race we won, despite the fact that Kamala Harris lost, we got to celebrate it. And we
Yep.
got to, I constantly remind our supporters that we are the majority. They will gaslight us into thinking we're the minority, but we are the majority. And there's a power in that, and you got to feel it in your soul. And I believe that.
I love that so much because I think that it's important to be a pathological optimist, right? Like people know I'm a realist, but
Yeah,
if I didn't believe in the ability of this country, of people inside of this country to change, then I wouldn't be doing this job,
that's right. You'd be
right?
out of the country.
Right. I would exactly. And so, the thing here though that I find the most dangerous, even though Donald Trump and this regime is not being so open-mouthed about targeting abortion and abortion care, you have RFK Jr., who is the most unqualified person to run HHS that this country has ever had. He is a just you can't even call him a quack because he's not even a doctor, right? He's just a conspiracy theorist that was given an incredible amount of power. And one of the things that they are quietly going after right now is medication abortion, which I
That's
believe,
right.
and you tell me what the stat is, but I believe that it's like 70% of abortions that are done in this country is done by medication abortion, right? Like there's an
It's the
overwhelming
majority. It's
it's the major
majority.
okay.
I think it's somewhere between 55 and 60. It depends on what part of the country you're in, but overall, it is the majority nationwide.
So medication abortion is the majority nationwide, and RFK Jr. has added it to his list, right? To his hit list of things that he would like to see overturned, right? Things that he would like to see,
Correct.
medications that he would like to see pulled off of the shelf. What does that mean? Set the stage for us.
Yeah.
If that were to happen, what does that mean?
Well, and I'll here's what I'll say. While we know, because we're tracking it, that this is happening, most Americans don't know this, and they muddy the waters intentionally. Martin McCary, the head of the FDA, has like gone on MSNBC and said, we're not going to do that. But then at the same time, when Republican AGs send him a letter and Republican senators send him communication, he's like, yeah, we're looking into it. So they're playing in our faces a little bit here,
Yep.
right? Unlike the being in our face about everything else. On this, it's important to remember they know how popular this is. So they're playing in our faces a little bit. By what I mean is they're saying one thing to the public and they're saying one thing to their base. This is important. So medication abortion is the majority of all abortions in the country, but more importantly, in the Dobbs anniversary, there was a bunch of coverage, a study that came out that despite the fact that we have 21 states in this country with abortion bans and severe restrictions, like real significant limitations, abortion rates had actually gone up. The anti-abortion movement lost their shit. Like, how is that possible? And they were getting like hammered on like Fox News. The head of Susan B. Anthony list, was like, wow, what is happening? Why did you fail? You overturned Roe and abortions are still going up. You know why? Because of telemedicine and medication abortion. Because under the Biden administration, they changed the rules. Thanks to COVID, we got more telemed and we were able to, prescribers were able to send medication abortion by mail, right? We had a whole
Yep.
liberalization, also thanks to the work of abortion rights advocates for decades to change the rules and to say, let's loosen them up. We need to make sure people have access to care. This doesn't just help folks in states with bans to get access through mail and to get telehealth. This also helps folks in rural parts of California, in rural parts of New York, folks in places that don't have access to an abortion clinic but can do self-managed care at home. So, what they're trying to, and this is why the rates have actually gone up. And medication abortion and telehealth and brave doctors like in New York, Dr. Maggie Carpenter, putting and states that have passed shield laws, 8 states that have passed shield laws, including New York, to protect providers from providing care to folks from out of state. This has been a critical way we've been able to save lives and protect access post Dobbs. So this is why the anti-abortion extremist movement will continue. They will never stop
Mhm.
until they can roll back authorization of mifepristone. Now, what we probably will see, what's most likely to happen, and by the way, there's the FDA and there's also a court case moving its way through the courts. Similar to what happened in 2024, there's the same court. They've actually shifted it to Missouri, and there's a whole effort by Republican AGs who've intervened to use the judicial process to reverse or limit authorization. They could pretty quickly, pretty easily, without the American people understanding it, change those rules back. Make it harder. Make it
Yep.
harder for us to get access to abortion medication through brick and mortar, forcing it to be through brick and mortar pharmacies, forcing it to be in a clinic setting. That would immediately have a devastating effect on all the folks in those 21 states and folks in rural parts of blue states. And they could do that without a whole lot of people paying attention. And they could
Yeah.
say, oh, it's just about safety. Oh, it's just about making sure folks are safe. We're not getting rid of medication abortion. We're just making it more, secure and safe. We care about patients and pregnant people, da 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 da. And that is what we have to worry about. We have to worry about all of it, but that's how they go back to that pre-Dobbs era of chipping away. And that is essentially still going to be a backdoor abortion ban because it's going to mean folks in those states will really be stuck and not have access to care without getting in their car, traveling out of state, figuring out their life, and getting a doctor in another state to provide care, and then having to go back to the state for follow-up care, which is insanity. So it's coming. And we have to make sure we're constantly on them and raising hell every time they take even a step in the direction of restricting access to mifepristone, because that is the only thing that works with this administration because they don't want to be caught doing it.
So, that being said, we know the ways that they are going to try and continue to chip away at bodily autonomy, at access to medication until it no longer exists. For people that are watching right now and that will watch later, Minnie, what can they do? What should they be doing in order to help be a part of Reproductive Freedom for All's fight to maintain reproductive freedom for all of us? What can people be doing? Because I get asked all the time, I want to help. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to show up. And we know that we just experienced, the success of the No Kings rally. And post that, they've had a call to discuss what next steps look like. And so, what can people do who are listening and watching if they want to get involved?
So there's so many things. I think number one is inform yourself. There's some really great folks on Substack. You're here. You're informing your folks. I think Jessica Valenti is, a Substacker who I've been on hers a few times, who is constantly informing folks on the information. Follow us on social. We're here. We're not as vibrant on Substack, but we're getting our act together. You can join us by texting. This is what I had to look up by texting 59791 and saying, I want to be part of it. You can join us by texting repro at 59791. I've actually just started a podcast as well because, we got to counter all the bros
Got to
out
do it.
there. So I'm interviewing policymakers and stakeholders, every couple of weeks to make sure we're getting the information out there. But I actually think the number one thing is voter education, and you can
Hmm.
do that. We have a digital team. If you join our team, we will constantly send you content to share. People don't know what they don't know. What we have found through our focus groups and our research is when people know what this administration is doing, they are angry about it. And that's independents and that's Republicans, that's low propensity voters. And the number one barrier is not having the info. So, for example, we know that the Trump admin, going back to medication abortion, doesn't want people to know what they're up to, which means we have to make sure everybody knows what they're up to.
Right.
The more we let them know what they're up to, at least when it comes to abortion, not everything else per se, they back down. They back off because they know what we know, which is that Republicans also voted for these ballot measures in these states. This is no longer a liberal issue. This is a
Right. Right.
bipartisan issue. 8 out of 10 Americans are with us on access to abortion. That includes Republicans and independents. That includes a chunk of the MAGA base. So we just got to we cannot be shy about it. We got to keep talking about, they said they were leaving it to the states, but they ain't leaving it to the states.
No.
They're trying to pass a backdoor abortion ban by restricting your access to care. They'll do it every way that they can, and we got to catch them in the act. So join us, share information, support abortion funds, support all the different great, smart organizations that are doing abortion access through mail, Plan C, go to I Need an A if you need access to care. We've partnered with two really important organizations that I want to plug. Abortion in America, which is a storytelling project. They're producing really
Great.
great content. First person stories of women in these states talking about what's happening to them are the most compelling content, the most persuasive content to folks who don't see themselves as political. And then there's a Charlie the chatbot. It's an AI chatbot that allows you to get secure information on the internet without being tracked about how to get abortion access.
Wonderful.
So those are both projects started by my mentor and great friend, Cecile Richards, who we lost early this year, but she built a tremendous infrastructure that we're continuing to invest in.
I love that. I love the concrete actions, the organizations that you named, because I think that it's important. I think that folks don't recognize, and I want them to, and this is the call that I say all the time, is I want people to recognize how much power they still have, how much power you have with the platforms that
So
you all
much.
are on, with the ability to share, to text. If it's just within your network, within your circle, that is
Totally
power.
right.
That is important. That is, and those things are important. So for folks that are just like, well, I don't have thousands of followers, I don't have, it doesn't matter. You could have five, right? Five people that don't know, that don't have voter education, that are receiving misinformation, and you be the plug that they need in order to get access to the quality information that they need. And so many before we get out of here, for folks that are new to this show that I'm doing now, it is the Fire Pit. And like I
Yeah.
said at the beginning, the Fire Pit is a place where we gather to share stories. But fire is also cleansing, and it's where we go to rid ourselves of things that are no longer serving us, right? And so at the end of each Fire Pit episode, I ask my lovely guests, what are you throwing in the fire pit today?
Can I so you we talked about this earlier and I was like, I need to think about something. You know, fire is also it cleanses, but you also sometimes put your weapon in the fire
Yep.
to sanitize it and to sharpen it, right?
Yep.
So I'm putting all my tools,
Yep.
all my organizing tools in that fire to sharpen them and cleanse them and get them ready and enhance their qualities. So I
Ooh,
need everything to get stronger and better. So the fire is going to do that. I'm a Hindu and we do believe in the spiritual quality of fire.
yeah.
We have a god, Agni, the god of fire, and it's a very powerful spiritual energy from fire.
I love that. I love that.
And we just
Okay,
finished.
man.
We're celebrating Diwali right now, which is the festival
Right.
of lights, and lighting oil lamps and getting rid of darkness. The whole holiday is about um, light over darkness, good over evil, love over hate, and it's so appropriate for right now.
I love that. Mini Timmaraju, I appreciate you so much. Thank you so much for joining the fire pit. And thank you for the incredible work that you've been doing for the last 4 years, which is just insane. Uh,
Wild.
with Reproductive Freedom for All. Folks, make sure that you follow Reproductive Freedom for All on Substack and on all of their social media platforms so that you can stay informed and stay engaged. Minnie, we will chat again soon. Be well, my friend.
Thank you, my friend.